Okay, we will go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining us today for a discussion and overview of iPlatform. I'm Mike Schwartz, and I've been working with the department for quite some time, almost 20 years now. And I'm joined with Heather Jenkins, who has been working and supporting many of the schools as part of our work at the department for about 4 years now. We thank you for joining us. This presentation is to give you an overview and hopefully answer some questions you might have into using iPlatform. I'm just going to give a quick introduction and turn it over to Heather, who's going to lead us through the presentation for today. But iPlatform, for those of you who don't know, is a tool that was really championed by the Commissioner of Education here at the department. The Commissioner really feels very strongly about the importance of making sure data is accessible as much as we can from schools as well as the broader public, really to provide more folks with information about how schools are doing, how are your schools doing, and enable you to improve instruction, enable all of us collectively to improve instruction for students. So that's kind of the premise behind iPlatform. It's been in place for a few years now and continues to grow. In terms of the webinar today, logistics, ask everybody to please keep muted. We do absolutely, though, encourage questions. And so the easiest way to do that is click on the question answers within the Zoom interface here. Type in a question, and I'll be monitoring those as Heather is presenting. So please do that as you go, whenever you've got a question. We'll be sending an email tomorrow with a link for the PD certificate, as well as a link to the webinar, slides, etc. So all that will be available. And then finally, there's a brief survey. So please complete that at the end. We definitely appreciate your feedback. So with that, I'm also just going to be a quick thanks to Dina Raybuck, also working with the department, and she's kind of the mastermind behind a lot of the development of this. Caitlin Davis is the division director for the organization, the division within the department who's responsible for iPlatform. So many thanks to Caitlin and Dina for all their hard work and Caitlin's commitment to this as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Heather. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Just to give you a little bit of information about what we're going to be going over. We're looking just at an overview of iPlatform and then some information about 3 different areas within iPlatform: iReport, iExplore, and iAchieve. And then if we have some time, we'll go over a couple of scenarios for you, and we'll get you going. Again, make sure you put any of your questions into the Q&A, and Mike can feed those to me as we go through. I'm going to turn off my camera at this point, so it gives you a little bit more room on your screen. All right. First and foremost, as we're looking at iPlatform, we're talking about all schools in New Hampshire. So charter schools, public schools, all the schools that we have in New Hampshire. And so the first thing we do is we collect all that data throughout the year. If you want to know anything more about all the collections, we've got some links here. So definitely take a peek. You'll get the slides and you can get to these links. As we go throughout the year, our students are assessed, whether it be on the New Hampshire SAS or SAT, or some folks are also looking at the DLM, all of that. They do their assessments. And then what happens sort of behind the scenes is all of that data is analyzed and it's used to identify school performance. All of that gets put into different data sources within the New Hampshire Department of Education platforms. And the information that we have kind of here on our screen, there's different levels of access that we have. I know we have LEAs on here this afternoon, but if for some reason you need access to data, you need to work with your superintendent or your coordinators. There are certain roles that you may or may not be able to see the information. So definitely work with folks if you feel like you're not able to access that. An overview of what we're going to be looking at today. Again, iReport. There's a few different tabs within iReport that we're going to be looking at. We're going to go into iExplore, and then there's some cool stuff in iAchieve as well that we'll be able to show you that you can get a lot of different information here. So we'll kind of get going on each one of these. We did put the link to iPlatform here. If you just put iPlatform on your Google search, it's going to be the first thing that comes up. So you can either follow this link or you can just type in iPlatform, and the screen will look similar to what we have for the screenshot here. First things first, iReport. So for iReport, as we go into iReport, I've got some slides here for screenshots, and then we'll go live into there and I can show you a couple more things, but we wanted to make sure all the important information was on the slides here for you. So as we get into iReport, typically what will happen is you'll click that and it will bring up this particular school district and report card, and you're able to choose whatever school district you would like to choose or school that you would like to choose. It's a drop-down menu. You can type in there and you're able to view the report. So this is on a specific school or district. As we open that up, you can see there's lots of tabs that go across the top. It automatically defaults to the overview tab. So you can see an overview of student achievement here. You can take a peek also up at the top. There's some different areas that you can look at as well. If we go here up at the top, we have right now the most current data we have is from last spring. So we're looking at 2023 data. As we move through our reporting window here for this spring, and all the data gets sort of correlated, and they are making sure to validate that data and take out any students who haven't been in your district for a certain amount of time. All of that, you will get a new year that will be coming up. Mike, it's typically September or October. I think we're looking probably into that October timeframe again for this next coming year. So right now it's 2023, but yeah, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, if it's, I believe it's going to be October timeframe again for 2024.
Yep, and I think they're hoping to actually accelerate it a little bit this year, so maybe as early as September. And one thought is I think they're going to be able to release it just to schools earlier. So again, sometime in early September, so that schools can take a look at the data and then make sure everything looks good before it gets released in any public fashion. So thank you for asking.
Great, thanks. All right, as we're moving across, this is the achievement tab that's within iReport. You can see overall achievement. Right now, we're looking at a specific school. You can see the achievement here. And the overall achievement, just so that you can understand that we're seeing here, is the level 3, so proficient, and the level 4, which is highly proficient. Both of those particular levels of proficiency go into the overall proficiency that you'll see for each subject. If you're looking here, a lot of folks look at this, the target, and they think that that's where the state is, and that's not necessarily the state average. The target is, it's just that, it's a target. It's what the state is hoping to see for achievement scores, but it's not necessarily that state average. So you can see that this district is just above where the target is for ELA, and they're pretty high above it for math. If you wanted to look for state of New Hampshire and where the state is when it comes to proficiency, you can see here that the cool thing about iReport and just iPlatform in general is these color schemes are consistent throughout. So ELA will always be this reddish pink, math will be the blue, science will be green. They don't have science for this particular school, so this must be a school that might go up to maybe 4th grade, because they don't have a science score because it's 5th, 8th, and 11th. So you can see here, you've got the state of New Hampshire, you've got the school district of Bedford, and the specific school that you have up here. So you can kind of see where all of the these fall into for proficiency levels. and then the overtime proficiency here as well. If we're looking here, we're now on the growth tab. So you can see here for the specific time, again, growth can be something that's a little bit tricky for people to understand. So I'm going to do my best to explain it in a pretty succinct way. So what happens here is there are cohorts of students that have not only the same proficiency, but the so like a level 1, 2, 3, or 4, but very similar scaled scores from one year. So let's say 2022. They create a cohort of students that have similar scaled scores, and then they look at those students that are in that cohort and see how they're doing the following year. So 2023, how did they score? Let's say a student scored a level 3. They're going to calculate that growth for that student compared to the students that they were very similar to the year before. So that is sort of the general gist of how growth is compared. It's maybe just a little bit more complicated than I'm saying, but again, it's by specific cohort. And what we're looking at is you want to see a growth score of 50% or higher. If you see 50% or higher, then that particular student is scoring better or higher than the students that were in their cohort the following year, or the previous year. So then come 2023, all the new cohorts will be figured out. All those students will go into to categories with students who have scaled scores that are very similar to them again, or overall scores. And then a new sort of growth percentile will be done for the 2024 school year. If we're looking at the top, yep, go ahead, Mike.
Thanks. I'm sorry, there was a question, Heather, about DLM assessment for that growth. And if I understood the question correctly, those growth characteristics are growth factors only calculated for the NHSAS, the general admission, not for DLM. So DLM students, there is no growth calculation for those students. And then if it's also, I'm not sure if this is part of the question, but for special education, like when the growth determinations are identified, it's not based on your demographics. It's based on your previous scores. So regardless of whether you're special ed or not, if you scored similarly many, in the past year, and to Heather's point, it actually looks more than just one year. It looks back kind of the history of a given student. It's going to compare that student to other similar students. So, there may be similarity, and maybe there are other special ed based on the initial score, but it's not necessarily based on the student demographics. It's based on the scores the students received in the prior years. So hopefully that answers the question.
Great, thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Heather.
Next place I want to go here is this download tab here. So you can download a lot of different reports from iReport. So we have a summary report card or a detailed report card. This particular one is the summary report. So it's giving you some general information from iReport for a specific school or a specific district. The detailed report has lots of different pages and lots of different information on it. It's giving you all sorts of achievement data, and it will be also looking at the different subsets. So it takes all of those tabs and puts them together, and you can print it out. Then we have where you're able to now, those were PDFs. We can also download all of that to Excel or as a CSV file. So if we're looking at all data for a selected school, you're able to look at the information for a specific school for a specific year. And then this is for multiple entities. So you can choose 3 different schools if you would like to choose 3 different schools here. And then all data for schools in a district. So you would select your district and all the schools in it would be able to download that information for you as well. I want to do right now is quickly go live into the iReport. So again, if I just type in iPlatform, it's the first thing that shows up here. I can click here. As I scroll down, I'm going to click on iReport. Right now, what's going to happen is it's going to bring me straight into a specific school. Normally, what's going to happen is if I go, I'm going to click back to search, it's going to bring me Port A. Crosby Kennett Middle School. They're the first one that shows up all the time. If I go back to search, this is what, once it's fixed, it will bring you back to this particular screen. You can choose a specific school or district. So you can type in the letters. I'll go with Portsmouth School District here, and I can view report. And what happens here is it's going to open right up to that particular overview page, and we can see the student proficiencies. Again, we're looking at the consistent light blue, gray, and yellow when it comes to the proficiencies. As you hover over things, it will give you anything that has other information. It will give you a little pop-up and give you a little bit more of a breakdown of what those proficiencies are here. So we're looking at student achievement. It gives you the last few years so that you can kind of see how students have done over those years. The other thing that you can take a look at here is going through, like if I go, let's go to achievement here. As it moves through achievement, again, similar colors. If I click on any of these areas here, it gives me a breakdown of the ELA proficiency, so I can see it by student group, ethnicity, I can look by grade, and then I can also then look at math. But one thing that you just have to keep in mind on this platform, not just iExplore, but just iPlatform in general, is if you open something up and you don't close it, other things will start to open on top of it. So now I have all three of these tabs open, and to close them, you just click again. Just takes a little bit of getting used to for being able to take a peek here. As we're looking at any of the areas here, you can take a look at growth. All of these different tabs give you different information. So we're able to take a look at this. And again, I can hover over certain areas and I'm able to see that information as well. All right. So this is iReport here. And if there's anything else, I think we'll just move on here to iExplore. But if you have any questions, definitely let me know and we can answer any of those.
We're all set for now. Thank you, Heather. I answered a couple directly, but we're good.
Perfect. This is just for each one of these. What we did for iReport is we gave a couple of scenarios or different things that you can take a look at. So as you're looking through the platforms and you get the slides, these just give you some general information about each one of the sections within iReport and gives you some things that you might be able to take a peek at. Moving on to iExplore. As we go into iExplore, we're going to be able to see some general information. It defaults to that Explore tab here. What you see here is it's going to give you you have some different indicators. I'll make it just a little bit bigger here. And we're looking at all the different indicators that you can choose up at the top. And you're able to choose any indicator and it's going to compare it to proficiency in ELA and math. So anything that we choose up at the top here we're able to then look at compared to the proficiency in ELA math. I'll show you another area where you're able to choose something different. But this is basically showing you all of the information here on the left. All the schools are listed here, and we're looking at average class size. We can choose any of these indicators to compare the ELA and math proficiency to. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of that drop down. We can go into the indicators in just a little bit as well, again, for ELA and math. Something here that I also wanted to explain is this Pearson R value. Basically, what this is telling us is if there is a possible correlation or not. And it's really the probability of the correlation. So if you have a value between 0.8 and 1, there is a possible positive correlation between the two. If it's below a 0.5, the correlation is weaker. So as the numbers get smaller, the correlation is, there's less of a correlation. One thing that we want to make sure is really clear is that just because there is a correlation between things, so maybe you've got something that's a 0.9 for the Pearson R value, that does not mean that that's necessarily causation. So you've got two indicators that you might be using. Maybe it's this, like we're seeing here, maybe for an average class size for your particular school and proficiency, the Pearson R value is a 0.9. That doesn't necessarily mean that like the larger class sizes are making it so the ELA and math proficiency is lower. There could be a lot of other factors in there as well. So we just want to make sure it's clear that that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's causing it, but it would mean that maybe that's something to look into and to figure out if that is actually the cause and what can be done. It's interesting, Mike and I have run the average class size compared to proficiency for a lot of different folks, and there doesn't seem to be a correlation between the two. We haven't checked every district, but it wasn't necessarily exactly what we had maybe anticipated or expected or that folks have expected. Moving on to the Discover, this is where you're able to choose different indicators. The other one, again, ELA and math proficiency was just the correlation chart there. Now you can choose what's on the x-axis and the y-axis. So now we can say, okay, this one is showing student growth in ELA and then what the average teacher salary, to see if teacher salaries are any indication of growth for students. So again, we're able to choose the specific indicators and see if there's any specific correlation. You've got the Pearson R value again. And this is kind of cool because you can choose whether you want to look at it from a school standpoint or a district, and then what region of the state it may be, and be able to kind of highlight some things on here as well.
Heather, there's a question about why there are a bunch on the left, like those zeros. And it's a good question just to answer that. This is showing you all schools that are selected. So in this case, it's 2023, and we're looking at all schools. There are schools that don't get growth because, for example, if you're a high school, there's no growth because to calculate growth, we need 2 years of assessment results in a row. And the assessment's only, as mentioned, the assessment is only given in grades 3 through 8 and 11. So in high schools, there's no calculation for growth. So those are why they're showing up as 0. And we have talked to Dina, and she's looking into making sure that those numbers don't impact the Pearson R value, because that's another question that came up before. And she's pretty sure it doesn't, although it does seem to be having some minor effects. So we are looking into that. But that's why those are 0s.
Great. Thanks, Mike. So the Compare tab is the next thing I wanted to show here. So as we're looking at this, again, we can choose specific indicators, and we're allowed to choose different schools or different districts here. So you can look at a specific category, and then it will open up the indicators for those categories. So if we're looking at achievement, it will show you ELA, math, science, all of that. So you're able to choose the categories or indicators, and then the schools, and then it will show you, once you've chosen that, it will show you the comparison between the two for academic growth, achievement, and all of that. And you can scroll down and you can see what the different schools are. So if you have schools in your district that you would like to compare, or if you have a neighboring district, or somebody that you feel like your district is similar to, you could compare those particular two entities. Right now, I'd like to go live into iExplore. We're going to go in here. So again, we're looking at iExplore. It's opening up. I see all of my particular schools listed here. Again, we've got our different colors that we have here. That's the top 25%, middle, 50, lower, and then unknown. I can choose the particular indicators up at the top here. Right now, everything is chosen. So as I look at the indicator name here, again, everything compared to ELA and math proficiency, I can scroll down, and these are all the indicators I can choose. If I knew I just wanted to see the academic growth indicators, as soon as I choose that, then I can choose ELA and math here. So I could say, I wouldn't want to do that because it's already compared to that, but you get the idea, where you're able to choose if you want to narrow down the list here. So right now it's average class size for ELA and math. If I wanted to be able to sort this, right now it's sorted specifically by school district in alphabetical order. You've got, it's hard to see here, but I wanted to show you, you've got these three different, as I go down to like my percentages here, I can click on this and that will make it sorted right now. So I have the highest particular class size, which is interesting here, and then all the way down to the lowest, or if I wanted to change that and say lowest to highest. We've got some schools here that it looks like they're not showing class sizes, so it starts here and then it will give me the schools. Also, if I hover over these, I can click on this and it tells me what school it is and the average class size that they have there.
Now, there was that Hollisbrook line that was at the district level that was looking funny.
That this is looking, because I'm
No, a
looking.
minute ago, we saw the one that was very high. I thought we were.
What's that? I'm so sorry. Say that again.
I thought when you first brought it up that there was a class size that looked very large.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's go this way. It must have been, that's oh, there it is. Why it's not. Yeah,
Okay.
district.
We'll take a look at that. There's
Yeah.
definitely a problem there. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, and I could here, you can change, like some of the, it's interesting. So this is another thing, Mike, that I was noticing, that it's not giving us the drop downs, which I think we've talked to Dina about that on a different screen too. So we should be able to choose a specific region. So if you had a specific region you wanted to see. This here, this is Explore again, ELA and math. If I look here and I choose compare, I really like this particular screen as well. So I'm able to look at average class size, and then I can choose different entities here. So if I wanted to choose, if we wanted to say, let's see, we could say Canterbury, and we could choose any other one, Amherst Street School. You can see that you've got your different colors, you've got your state of New Hampshire and the class sizes, and you can see where they are. You can then also look at achievement and all the different indicators here to see if these are two schools that, you know, like are similar, what sort of their information is for the last 3 years for them as well. This next one here, this search, this is another one that is really helpful as you're starting to look at achievement. So we could look at achievement rating here. We could look at anything we wanted to. If we wanted to look at average class size and we wanted to see where the different schools are, what I would do here is I would choose something that has to do with maybe achievement, right? So, because we're looking to see how we're doing for that. If we're looking here and we want to say, when we're looking at achievement rating, if we kept that here, any other indicator I choose, I can start to put an indicator on it. So if I wanted to look at, you know, the next thing was average class size. And if I wanted to see an average class size that is between a certain number of students, maybe that's similar to mine. So maybe I want something that's between 15 and 22 students. I can either use this here to move, or I can say right here, if I want specifically 15 to 22 students. Now I'm only getting those particular schools that have a class size between 15 and 20. And then I could do another indicator here as well. So maybe I want it to be that they have English language learners, right? And I want to see what percentage of English language learners. Again, I could put change any of this information. So I'm able to use this information. If I wanted to say, okay, I'm only want to see those in the Lakes region, I can click Lakes region and I can apply it here. So these are the schools in the Lakes region that meet the criteria, and I can see what they have here as well. So I could add anything that I wanted to. I could say I want to see their growth rating as well. So this is cool to be able to kind of change things. Again, these are, if I wanted to put these in order, I could change, you know, the order here to say this is what they are, or class size. I could say I want to see smallest class size to largest class size. So this is a pretty cool area to take a peek at. All right. Next, if there's any questions here, definitely let me know. I want to go back into the slides here. Again, for iExplore, we did each tab in some scenarios or some information that you might want to take a peek at and gain a little bit more information about. I'll pause there for just a second. And we'll move on to iAchieve. Again, we're going to just take a peek at some slides. We're going to spend a decent amount of time in iAchieve. It's got lots of different information in there for you. This is the state of New Hampshire iAchieve. You can get it, go into your specific districts or your specific schools as well. There's a couple different ways that you can view it. As soon as you get into iAchieve, the first things first, we're on the assessment participation. So you can see specific participation rates here. This is something that we've been trying to really spread the word about when it comes to participation in the assessments for the state and for your accountability. So we're looking at your participation rates are only going to include students that are there for the full academic year, which means 90% of the academic year. One thing to note is if you are a large district, they need to be in that particular district for 90% of the academic year. If they move from school to school in your district, I believe that they still count for being there for the full year, even if they weren't necessarily in a particular school for that full year. But for the most part, it is that they're within your school or district for 90% of the year or more. So they move in March and they take the assessment, their particular scores will not necessarily go in your particular school or district if they haven't been there for the full academic year. Also, it's not the state of New Hampshire, really, it's the federal target is 95% participation rate. So you want to make sure that your level of participation is high. We have a lot of folks that are maybe not understanding that as much. And so they're allowing a lot of students to opt out. I know that there's kind of a little bit of a push. Maybe that's changed a little bit now that we're getting a little bit further out from the COVID years, but you want to make sure that your participation rate is 95% or more. It affects your achievement rating, not necessarily on your achievement levels here on this, but for your accountability purposes, those students, if you have less than 95% participation, those scores, not for a particular student necessarily, like if I didn't take it, I don't get a 0, but if you have less than 95% participation for every student that is below that, those numbers count as zeros. So you want to make sure that you've got as many folks as possible, as students as possible taking the assessment, even if they're special ed, if they're not taking the DLM, they should be taking the New Hampshire SAS and the SAT as well. For the next one, we're looking at the proficiency and growth tab. So you can see up at the top here, you've got that assessment proficiency. This is similar to what you saw on the iReport and iExplore, but it's on this page here as well and shows this part here is again showing you the proficiency. You can see your overall growth. Again, 50% means that on average, students are making growth faster than their cohort of peers from the year prior, and prior to that as well. This next particular area, a lot of folks don't know about this yet, so they're creating these reports themselves. So what this is showing is average assessment proficiency and growth over time. So because it's looking at the state of New Hampshire here, you see those growth numbers are 50, 50, 50, 50. But this is proficiency over time. And the way that we're looking at that, again, follows that cohort, and you're looking at it diagonally. So you can see in grade 3, this particular group of students in 3rd grade, they didn't take it in 2020 when they were in 4th grade. Here's their proficiency when they were in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. So you're able to see for your particular school or district what that overall proficiency is. And same thing with growth. This just happens to show ELA. There's math as well and science. Right now, we're moving to the achievement level tab. So here's where you're able to see your specific achievement levels. As you're looking at the top, you can see what percentage of students are in each achievement band here. And then you can also see the growth in each achievement band. And then here's their growth for the particular levels for math, ELA, and science as well. As we move to the ESSA indicators, this is if you have your particular school up, this is where you're able to see what your standing is. This particular school that I have here is in good standing. On the bottom here, these are all of the indicators that feed into that particular classification. And so you can see their achievement, their growth, you get scores for equity, depending on your English language learners, or if you're college and career ready, like if you're a high school, you'll be able to see the graduation rate in college and career readiness. And then you can see all of the achievement, growth, equity, and then you can see the information here as well for the students for that particular year. I want to go live into here because I've got a few things to show you. Let's go here. I'm just gonna form, and then we'll go into iAchieve here. So iAchieve, like I said, when you first come in here, we've got the state of New Hampshire that's showing us all of the general information here. The interesting thing is, again, we can hover over some of these things and you can see what the values are for each subgroup, race, ethnicity, male, female, over the last 3 years. You can see the percentage of students not tested. So you've got 94 tested, 6% didn't test. And then you can also see your end of year counts as well here. And then the total enrollment. If I were to change this, if I want to change and look at a specific school and to be able to see a particular school, I'm gonna look at, I can search here. You can look at a specific school here. So now I'm looking at a particular school. Again, to close this, I'm just going to hit this X. It doesn't change that I wanted New Franklin School here. So now we can see their participation rates. You can see their FAY here for ELA, math, and science, or total enrollment. And now I can start looking at all the information here. So as I'm looking at proficiency and growth, I can look here. What I like about this proficiency and growth here is that as I'm looking at this, if I click here, I'm able to see again what the proficiency and growth is for the last 3 years. I'm able to see where they are compared to their target. I can do the same here for math. You can see what their average proficiency and growth here is. If I was smart, I would have chosen a school that was, let's go into a K-8 school. This might be able to see a little bit better some of their achievement and growth because they've got more grade levels. So let's look here. We can see for grade 3, they had 84% proficiency. Then they had COVID, 81, 74, 89. So you can see sort of the trajectory for these particular grade levels. It's also nice to see, not just looking down this way for a particular cohort, but to see what a specific grade level and how they're doing sort of over time. So if you look at 5th grade and you go all the way across, you can see what the proficiencies were for the last 5 years that students were in school, again, knowing that we had a COVID year here. When we're looking at growth, because it's looking at growth from 1 year to the next, you've got a couple of different COVID years here, and then you can see what growth is for the years after that. Same thing with math. Science is a little different because they are taking that in grades 5, 8, and 11, Mike. I'm just saying this to you because it says 4, 5, and 8.
Thank you.
So there might be something a little bit going on there with that one. But this is, yep.
Actually, Heather, I'll double check, but there was a time back that it was grade 4.
Okay,
So
maybe
we
that's why
still,
the NA,
yeah, I
NA.
think so. I think that's why
Okay.
it's being displayed. I'll just take a double check and like if I select 2000, if I can see any prior data, but I think we probably can just get rid of it.
Yeah,
I'll look
and
at the
yeah,
11.
so then it was funny, we took 11 off because it wasn't really growth from 8th grade to 11th grade. So
Right.
that was something that we took off. So maybe that's why that's on there. Um, then
Well,
if you,
uh, and I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
those aren't growth, those are just proficiencies, right?
Right, no, oh, right, that's right. Sorry. That was proficiency. The growth one was not there. Correct. This one here, the achievement levels. So you can see here, you've got achievement levels. I love this screen here because as I'm hovering over the level 2 here, you can see what percentage of students were a level that are in level 2 this year, what they were last year, so the year prior. And so roughly 20% of the students that are level 2 were in a level 1, 26% of them were, stayed level 2, 17, a little over 17% were a level 3 that went into level 2. And then for some students not required to test, those might be those third graders going in. Does the same thing here. So you can see for level 3, what percentage of students went from each level into level 3. So I really like this particular screen here. So you're able to hover over it and see. Same thing here with growth. You can kind of see where the growth is and get a little bit more information about growth. When it comes to achievement and growth over time, you can see the students and how they've done for a level 1 in 2021, then 2022 and 2023. So you can see which particular bands are growing or not growing. So I like that particular screen. And then this ESSA indicators here. This particular school right now is in good standing. You can see what their achievement levels are. It gives you a little bit of a breakdown here, what their growth is, equity, and then any of these other indicators that also are applicable to this school. So for when it comes to the indicators, you've got good standing, and then you've got targeted support. And then what's the other one? There's TSI and targeted
ATS.
support. What was that? Sorry.
ATS?
Yeah. And that is additional targeted support, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so CSI is your whole school is really struggling. And that's the 5% who are struggling the most in the state. The ATS means that you have a subgroup. So maybe it's just your students with special needs, or maybe it's your limited English proficient students, that those students are performing at the same level as those CSI schools. So that subgroup is performing struggling the same way the lowest 5% of schools are. And then the TSI means that you've got a subgroup like special education who were in the lowest 5% just for their group 2 years in a row. So those are the 3 different standings.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right. So that's
And
what we
I'm sorry, Heather, there's a question about those values at the bottom and like the achievement value. So just to be clear, like that 2.79 means that you're someplace, again, as Heather mentioned, students are either substantially below proficient, meaning they're a 1, they're below proficient 2, 3, or 4. So they're rated, 1 to 4 levels for their state assessment test. That's saying that on average, your students were at 2.79. But that's slightly different than just complete average of all your students because it only is taking into account students who are in your school for the full academic year. And you have to have been in the right grade that you're tested. So there's some different parameters that are used to determine that value, and similar for the value for growth and equity, the other indicators.
great. Thank you, Mike. All right. So getting back in here, again, we have the iAchieve, sort of the overview, giving you information about each particular tab and what you might want to take a peek at, or how you might be able to show others how to take a peek at it. And we'll continue to take questions. Right now, that's our general overview, but I did want to go into a couple of scenarios to kind of give you an idea of which areas of the platform you might want to take a peek at if you're looking at these scenarios. So our first scenario that we want you to think about is you have your students and they've been struggling with performance on the state assessment. And maybe you want to talk to similar districts who are performing a little bit better on the assessment than you are. And you're wondering who you would be able to contact. Some relevant information about your school is you have less than 325 students. Your school is in the North Country, so you'd like to see other schools in the North Country. And you have a high number of families in poverty. So we're going to take a peek at, again, schools in the North Country, less than 325 students who are doing pretty well on the math performance and have at least 40% of their students eligible for free and reduced meals. So thinking about where we would go with this. I would love to say anybody have an idea, but I'm looking at time here, so I'm gonna get right into sort of where we would look. So this is where you would go. You would go right into iExplore. This is that search area that we were talking about here, where you're able to look at different indicators. So we've got proficiency in math here. We were able to take our total enrollment and say we want to see 325 students or less. The smallest amount of students is 12 in the state. So we're able to see that. And we wanted to say that the economically disadvantaged students are at least 40% or more. So we put that in here, and then we chose the North Country. And so here's the list of those schools, and you would be able to sort them right now. The way that it is sorted is by highest proficiency to lowest proficiency, and you can see which schools those are. So you're able to get some information for those schools who you might be able to say, hey, I want to reach out to them and see if there's anything that they're doing, or if they might have a conversation about some of the things that initiatives that they're doing in their school that might be having their students perform a little bit higher than your particular school. The second scenario that we wanted to go through is you're curious about student proficiency and growth in your school. It'd be great to see a snapshot for each grade level over the last few years. You would like to compare math, ELA, and science to see if their growth is similar, and where should you look. So this is one of those tabs that we just looked at. This is the iAchieve. And we were looking at those particular areas here. This one, grade 11 is no longer on here. So grade 4 has been on there for a while, Mike. So I was just mistaken on that one. But grade 11 is now taken off. It's confusing.
I'm sorry, just to confirm, grade 11 is still there if you're looking at a school district with a grade 11 in it. I just double checked.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay.
And grade 4 is there because in 2016 and 17, we used to test in grade 4.
So you'll be able to see those numbers because it goes back that far.
Yeah, like in the top right, when you're viewing in the system, you can change the year drop down. And if you go all the way to 2019, it'll back it up to 2016, 17. So yeah.
Great. Thanks, Mike. So yep, we're able to see here, again, you can see on this side here is the proficiency, and then this is the growth. Again, no growth with science because it does not go from one year to the next. They skip a couple of years. So that's where you would find the information there. And then the last scenario is you believe the class size in your elementary school, that the class sizes are high. You're wondering if schools with smaller class sizes have students with higher test scores. And where would you look to see if there's a correlation between class size and achievement? We did talk about this one a little bit earlier. This is the iExplore on the Discover here tab. We were able to choose the indicator for the x-axis and the y-axis. So we were looking here at math proficiency and over here average class size. You can see the Pearson R value is a 0.05. So overall, for every school in the state, it does not show that there's a correlation between average class size and math proficiency. So even though we want smaller class sizes, it doesn't seem like that's necessarily one of the indicators. As we finish up, here's just some helpful hints. Again, this is some of the stuff that we went over, but like one of them here, there's an iGlossary, so it can give you some information about some of the definitions for these things. There's a lot of great pop-ups when you hover over things. Again, when you open something, you want to click on the X to shrink it. And then taking a look at that drop down, which I didn't necessarily do, you can choose different years. So you don't have to necessarily look at all current data. You can look at data in the past as well. As we finish up, when it comes to our data coaching contract with the state, we have the webinar that we're doing today. We also have some other webinars that you might be wanting to take a look at. There's increasing student agency coming up next week, along with iPlatform for special educators. So if you have any special educators that you think might benefit from this, it's a very similar presentation, but sort of looking at it through a little bit more of a special education lens. We're going to talk about formatting your New Hampshire SAS results in Excel, and then once some of the data starts coming through for math and science, we're going to look at understanding and leveraging New Hampshire SAS results. We have a PLC workshop coming up, and then another repeat of the webinar from May 15th on June 4th. Here's our information here for if you want to reach out to any of us, if you have questions. And thank you so much for coming today. We really appreciate it. Again, as you're logging off or as we stop the webinar, we're going to have a quick survey pop up. We'd love to hear your feedback. And thank you so much for coming today, and enjoy your afternoon.